All right, students, we've already worked in our sketchbook, so it's time to pick up some paintbrushes. I suggest getting a large and small paintbrush, and we can get started. The first layer we're painting with our coral is called a wash. I'm going to pick up more water than paint on my paintbrush and kind of loosely sketch out the coral that I want on my artwork. As you can see, there's not a lot of details. It's just kind of a thin layer, again, a wash, that I'm laying down, and there'll be plenty of opportunities to add details on top later. Remember as you're working that these videos aren't meant for you to copy exactly, but rather to gain some inspiration for your own original work of art. The last step in our wash layer is to create some waves. This will add some movement and interest to your artwork. Just for added interest, my waves aren't the same thickness. There's thin and thick, some are darker, some are lighter. Feel free to carefully paint over your coral or behind, your choice, but make sure that those waves are coming all the way down as close to the bottom of the page as possible. Once your first layer has dried, you can add some darker details. This means that there's going to be more paint and less water on your paintbrush. You can almost redraw on top of your original coral and add those small texture details. This is going to add value and depth and make your coral look more three-dimensional. Here's some extra examples of coral that I drew on my test paper. Feel free to be inspired by these as well. All right, bonus time. If you have extra time or desire to add more details, you can use a regular Crayola fine tip marker to bring back some of those details maybe that you lost. Maybe you didn't get a nice straight line with your paintbrush, but then this marker can help as well. There's also an option when you're done with this marker to get a clean paintbrush and wiggle it over the marker, and that will release the marker and give it more of a watercolored look. So these are for friends that really like those fine details that they weren't being able to pick up with a regular paintbrush. And now it's time to create your fish print. So there's a variety of options. I'm just going to draw a very basic traditional fish shape. You're going to get a styrofoam square and a dull pencil so you can draw and press in to the styrofoam with ease. Press enough that you can make a nice groove, but not too much so that you poke a hole. Once you get your basic shapes done, then you're going to take your scissors and carefully cut around your fish shape. Any extra styrofoam can go into the trash, and then keep that fish nice and close because we will be printing with it shortly. Once you've had your fish cut out, it's time to print. You're going to get a brayer and load that brayer with ink. So you're going to roll up and down, side to side several times until you get a nice velvety texture onto your brayer. You don't want too much ink and you don't want too little. Once your ink is loaded, you're going to go ahead and roll that ink onto your fish. I put a scrap piece of paper down just to protect my table. Your table might already have something there. So go ahead and take your brayer and carefully roll up and down, side to side on your fish. This is something that you need to act quickly with because the ink can dry, and you want to make sure that you don't overload your fish with ink, and that would mean that the ink fills in those white spaces. Once your fish is ready to go, you're going to carefully position it on your paper. Be thoughtful about composition. Where would you like it? You will have more than one print, so keep that in mind. Go ahead and carefully place it on your paper. You don't want to jab or punch your fish. That's not going to help anybody. What you want to do is more like a massage type of motion where you're equally pressing your hands on the fish, being careful if your hands are dirty not to smear paint everywhere. It might be helpful to get a scrap paper to press down, and that will keep your messy hands from getting on your paper. Once you've evenly pressed down, you're good to go, and you can carefully lift up. Ta-da! Well, it looks like I almost got a ghost print. That means that I had more ink on one side and less ink on another. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the same process again, knowing that I need to put a little bit more ink on the body of the fish. You can continue this process using your fish, or if you'd like to trade fish stamps with a neighbor, go ahead. But fill your paper with lots of beautiful fish, and I can't wait to see what you make.